Hi, I'm Scott Humphrey, CEO of the World Floor Covering Association, and this is Leadership Live. And our word this week, as we go through this 2022 Leadership by the Letter, is the word engage, or maybe engagement. Have you ever noticed how a word can give you a visual picture? If you have, then you probably thought with the word engagement of somebody being down on their knee and proposing to the one that they love. And it's kind of the picture I want you to have, because engagement is about bringing two parties together. It can be two individuals, it can be two organizations, it can be an organization and an individual, but engagement is vital for success at the personal, professional, at every level. Here's a definition I created for engagement. To create a commitment, often emotional, between an individual or an organization and their goals. To create a commitment, often emotional, between an individual or an organization and their goals. So with that in mind, let me talk to you about 4 levels of engagement, or 4 different areas of engagement that I thought of as I was prepping for this. The first is employee engagement. Now, why is that important? Well, for multiple reasons. An engaged employee is much more active in the business of the business. In other words, they're happy they're there, and because they're happy they're there, they're willing to do more and be more to help the business reach its goals. Employee engagement is also important for longevity. If an employee is engaged at work, they're much more likely to stay and less likely to be looking. So engagement is vital there. I heard somebody say once that if an employee has a muscle they want to flex, you should make it happen. So employee engagement is vital. Next is customer engagement. Did you know that emotion is the strongest driver of customer loyalty? So where does emotion come from a customer when they're in your store? It's with their engagement with your employee. And if you have an employee who is engaged and happy in the workplace, that comes across. Now, if you want to see the power of emotion and engagement, think about the last time you were with somebody who saw something negative in everything that came their way. It becomes very difficult to stay positive when you're around somebody who's negative. In other words, emotion is contagious. And so I challenge you to make sure your employees are engaged, and then you'll find customers that are engaged to the point that they become loyal to you and they want to come back over and over. And not only that, but they love to tell other people that they come to your store. Next, professional engagement. Very quickly, I would just tell you LinkedIn is a great way to be professionally engaged. And we do this for development. It helps us find people that have knowledge we don't have, or who have been somewhere that we have not yet gone, and we're able to tap into them and learn from them. And then finally, personal engagement. When I talk about personal engagement, I'm talking about your engagement with the significant people in your life, your children, your spouse, significant other, people within the community, at your church. And this is a depth of engagement that is vitally important. Not like a story I recently heard about a girl who had broken up with her boyfriend. They had been pretty serious, and she breaks up with him. She comes to regret that, and so she sends him a note, and the note says, "I love you. I can't believe I made this mistake. I'm not sure what I was thinking. I was probably just having a bad day. I hope you can forgive me, and we can get back together." And then at the bottom of the note, it said, "P.S. Congratulations on winning the lottery." Well, that's not the depth of engagement we're talking about. Not engagement because it does something for us, but engagement because it does something for both parties. So very quickly, here's what you can do to become better engaged. Listen actively. Here's some ways you can do that. Sit down to listen rather than stand, because it tells the party you're talking to that you're there to hear them. And when you're there, don't be afraid to take notes. Walk into the office of somebody who works for you and say, "Hey, listen, I want to find out what we can do better and what we can do to make you happier here. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to jot down a few things so I can make sure that we weigh these things and we implement them." And that's number 2. Act on what you gather. If you get information from somebody and you don't act on it, you're going to quit getting information from them. And so you've got to be willing to act on what you hear. Third, check up on what you've done. So if you've used a word we had a couple of weeks ago, delegation, and you delegated to somebody, you've gotten them more engaged by doing so, find out how that's going. Check up on yourself, and that will tell them it wasn't just an exercise for you, but you really wanted to make a difference. And finally, encourage intercompany engagement. Get them interacting with each other, build relationships beyond just the workplace. Here at the WFCA a few years ago, we had a softball team that played. It was a co-ed softball team. We weren't great, but we had a great time doing it. I'm telling you, when you have relationships that go beyond the business, it becomes very difficult to leave the business. So encourage people to be in a bowling league or softball or whatever it might be. Listen, engagement is important. It's a positive part of what we do. So I encourage you at the employee, customer, professional, and personal level, become better at being engaged. And then go out there and lead.